This material is a part of the Oklahoma Historical Society's Oral History Program, Living Legends collection. This material was originally recorded on January the 12th, 1971. It is Governor David Hall's first speech delivered before the joint session of the legislature, the day after his inauguration as governor of the state of Oklahoma. This material was re-recorded on the 20th of December, 1985 for inclusion in the permanent collections of the Oral History Program by Judith Michener.
Members of the joint session, it's been my privilege on several occasions to make different introductions to you. May I say, in the words of a new day of Congressman Carl Albert yesterday, that I have not had as high a privilege as I consider it now to introduce to you the Chief Executive of Oklahoma, the Honorable David Hall, Governor Hall.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, President Pro Tempore of the Senate Smith, Speaker Privet, members of the Senate and House of Representatives, and my fellow Oklahomans. Today we take the first step in an exciting journey. The dreams, the hopes, the visions, and the problems of Oklahoma now take their proper places. We begin now to reshape the future of this state, and it has never been more promising nor more challenging than it is today. The commitments that I have made in the past campaign now become a bold program, which I place without fear before a bold legislature. The people at the crossroads, the towns and cities of our state, have told us that there are things that they want and need. This supplement to the budget is how I believe it can be done. The people of Oklahoma have done an outstanding job of selecting legislators. You are the representatives of the people, and you have an administration today dedicated to helping make Oklahoma a better and more prosperous place to live. I stand humbly before this joint session, but I am proud we are now opening the greatest era of legislative and executive cooperation that this state has ever known. I want your help. I need your help, and today I ask for your help. I am pleased to have the pledge of personal cooperation from the men you have selected as your leaders. There is a mutual respect between us as men. It will be reflected in an unparalleled harmony throughout the coordinate branches of government. This unity of purpose will help Oklahoma to achieve commitments heretofore that have been nothing but evasive dreams. I pledge to each of you my complete cooperation. We will work together, and together we will build Oklahoma. You have before you the annual budget prepared in accordance with the laws and the Constitution of this state. This budget is based upon the available revenues certified to me by the State Equalization Board for the ensuing fiscal year. I have also prepared a supplement to this budget recommending additional sources of revenue to achieve a program of excellence for all of the people of Oklahoma. You will be furnished with a written copy of this at the end of this message so that you may take it with you and peruse it. A severe financial crisis exists today in Oklahoma. We approach the new fiscal year July 1st, 1971, without the funds legally expendable to support state government at its existing level, and no money to meet rising costs and improve necessary programs. There will be no windfalls this year, no giant surpluses to fall back on. To the contrary, current projections of funds available for appropriation are that we will have in fiscal year 1972 $4 to $6 million less operational funds than were certified last month by the State Equalization Board. In addition, it is estimated that in fiscal year 1973, if the average growth remains the same, we will have $14 to $16 million less. This means that unless substantial changes are made, the available funds for operation of government have peaked and we face a declining revenue source in the months and years to come. The state budget officer advises me that shortages in the cash flow of the General Revenue Fund will be critical before the end of 1971. Drastic curtailments will be necessary unless you act immediately to provide new sources of revenue. It is my responsibility to provide the leadership to reverse this disastrous trend. It is also my duty to present this problem to you and to recommend solutions. The crisis in state financing in Oklahoma, I believe, can be solved. We face the need for expanded state services with most of our people already overburdened by taxes. It is time we faced these hard decisions in our budget. Oklahoma cannot stand still. Our schools and colleges cannot stagnate in the pools of indifference. In the search for revenue to meet the needs of our growing state, our expanding population and economy, I have steadfastly promised and proposed that no general tax increase be levied upon our people. I restate that commitment and affirm it before you today. Oklahoma's broadly based tax system requires review. It requires action to bring about an equitable balance in our tax load. We are long overdue for tax relief. This session will provide some of that relief. I promised, and I now propose, that the burden of sales tax upon food and drugs be removed. This action must clearly define the area of relief because drug and grocery stores sell a variety of products. In order to relieve the small grocery merchant from the complex and costly accounting between food and non-food items, to protect the cities who vitally need the present tax base, to provide the needed services to the aged, the crippled, the sick, the blind, and the infirm, and to provide problems in the administration of our present sales tax laws, I propose the following measures. First, an outright exemption of all prescription drugs for human needs from any state sales tax. Second, a direct income tax credit and a cash refund for non-income taxpayers equivalent to the sales tax paid on human consumable food for off-premises use. Tax relief means lifting an unfair burden. Tax relief means closing loopholes. Tax relief means stopping an unfair preference given to a privileged few. I now propose that those Oklahoma taxpayers with high incomes, some in excess of $200,000 per year, who paid no income tax to this state last year because of various exemptions and deductions, be taxed a fair and equitable amount on such income. Oklahoma has simply not kept pace. Since 1947, there have been no substantial changes in the income tax laws. Meanwhile, Congress enacted reform in 1948, in 1954, in 1966, and in 1969. Our present income tax collections are 7.1% of the federal income tax collected in Oklahoma. The national average amount in 33 states that levy income tax is 16.1%. Numerous tax studies have resulted in a recommendation that we simplify our state income tax by basing it upon the net taxable income as determined under federal laws. I propose this change effective for the current calendar year. We can no longer justify, in my opinion, a dual system and the mounting administrative costs. The enactment of the simplified tax bill, as I propose, will eliminate the existing exemption of corporate dividends. This loophole in our tax structure has enabled a few taxpayers to escape tax upon a large part of their incomes in the past. We can no longer justify this unfair tax shelter. Other adjustments resulting from the federal tax base would include the elimination of the deduction for federal tax paid. Our personal exemptions would be matched to the federal exemptions. This would result in an additional net revenue of $43,500,000, and the net cost to Oklahoma taxpayers would be much less. Approximately 20 to 52% of this increase would be borne by the federal government because it is deductible for federal income tax purposes. But the most important feature of this plan is that it would give tax relief to thousands of low-income families in the state of Oklahoma. My proposal will remove all income tax from the 200,000 low-income families who paid a state income tax of $20 or less last year. This tax relief will help those families provide the necessities of life for their children. Under this plan, a family of four with an income of less than $5,000 per year would not pay any Oklahoma state income tax. Our tax structure in Oklahoma has always included a tax upon mining and production of certain minerals and oil and gas. This mineral wealth cannot be replaced and is being depleted at a rapid rate. Those who extract mineral wealth must bear a fair share of taxation. I have carefully reviewed present Our tax structure in Oklahoma has always included a tax upon mining and production of certain minerals and oil and gas. This mineral wealth cannot be replaced and is being depleted at a rapid rate. Those who extract mineral wealth must bear a fair share of taxation. I have carefully reviewed present gross production taxes and am making certain recommendations to you. First, Oklahoma has imposed no gross production tax upon coal and certain other minerals, although we have granted a depletion allowance for these minerals. Oklahoma's valuable coal reserves are among the greatest in the nation. The extraction of this mineral will multiply as the commerce of the mighty Arkansas River expands. I propose a 3% gross production tax. As students of revenue and taxation, the members of this legislature have frequently considered a revision of our state tax on natural gas. My research reveals that 60% of the total production of this resource is transported by pipeline to consumers in other states. I propose a gross production tax of 3 cents per 1,000 cubic feet of natural gas produced and sold in lieu of other taxes on natural gas. This will produce from consumers outside the state of Oklahoma an estimated $24 million a year in new revenues. For the average Oklahoma family, it will cost a little more than a penny or two a day. This increase totally would bring in $39 million to the state of Oklahoma. To meet our financial crisis, it is imperative that this natural gas tax become effective as soon as possible. Other areas of taxation in which inequities may exist also require your attention. These include ad valorem taxation, the various fields of commerce and industry, the insurance industry, and other areas. It is my commitment that whatever reforms we propose will be fair, equitable, and in the best interest of the citizens of the state of Oklahoma. We must discharge our responsibility to provide a balanced tax structure under which every citizen assumes his fair share of the cost of government. No one should pay more than his fair share. It is my firm belief that a judicious revision of the tax code will assure that those who have in the past escaped their obligation will now pay their fair share. Every state has seen its cost of government soar. I pledge to you to work closely with the governors of the other states towards the enactment of a federal revenue sharing plan that will give our state a greater percentage of the federal tax dollar. It is important that Oklahoma improve its ranking as to its own tax effort in order to realize a fair apportionment of the revenue sharing. These proposals will greatly improve Oklahoma's position. The number one priority, in my opinion, for Oklahoma now becomes education. Last year, we ranked 45th in the nation in our per pupil expenditure for public schools. We are near the bottom for higher education. I recommend increased financing for education to provide long-range solutions for the betterment of this state. I now propose that we take the first steps in striving towards the national per pupil expenditure average. In addition to the increase of $3,750,569, which you see in the budget before you for public education, I propose an increase of $40 million under the supplement to this budget, which I present to you now. For higher education, I propose an increase of $20 million. For vocational and technical education, I propose an increase of $1 million from new revenue to be added to the $646,250 provided in the budget before you for 2 new schools. These increases will help many improved services, including a reduced teacher-pupil ratio, kindergarten for every child, special education for all children who need it, improved guidance counseling, a break on the spiraling cost of college tuition, an improvement of graduate programs, a drug education program, improved free textbook program, a means of attracting new industries through greater research capability, the teaching of a basic law course in our high schools. In addition, I am asking our colleges and universities to include students in the rule-making activity of the administration, and I am asking that once these rules are made, that they are enforced strictly by the governing boards. I am asking that our colleges and universities place the elected head of student government as a non-voting representative on the governing board of regents. Another area that demands our attention is the condition of our secondary roads. I propose that this administration undertake the elimination of death traps in our state highway system, and that we initiate a long-range secondary road program that will support our primary road program. I am directing the Highway Commission to carefully examine the roads in our 77 counties, to identify the death traps and high accident areas, and to immediately furnish me with such information and an estimate of the cost of making these roads safe. I'm also directing the Highway Commission to conduct a study of needs and priorities for the most massive secondary road program this state has ever seen. The challenge to this legislation I told you it was going to be bold. This legislature has the challenge, the very great challenge with me, to help develop a method of financing these costs consistent with our acknowledgement that Oklahoma is opposed to a general tax increase, and it is committed to provide tax relief for our overburdened citizens. In an effort to provide long-range help to our economy, we will pursue every means possible to bolster Oklahoma businesses who are experiencing financial difficulty. We will vigorously pursue new industry for our state. However, our present laws permit governmental agencies to provide plant and facilities for new industries to avoid the ad valorem tax laws of this state. I propose that any ad valorem tax exemption for the benefit of new industry be limited to not more than 10 years. This will be competitive with any surrounding state, but will reduce the tax burden on the home communities of that new industry. In the field of labor, I recommend 4 legislative measures to provide more equitable and fair practices for Oklahoma's workforce. Number 1, increased unemployment compensation. Second, improved death benefits provided under workman compensation laws. Third, a negotiations bill for public employees coupled with a specific no-strike clause. Fourth, the inclusion of all state employees under unemployment compensation. It is my firm belief that the functions of local government should be handled at the local level, and that the functions of state government should be handled by the state. Therefore, I propose that the cost of the present district attorney system be borne by the state of Oklahoma, and that the counties be relieved of this financial responsibility. That'll help. Thank you. I propose that the state provide as a supplement to this budget $2 million to finance the district attorney's functions for the coming fiscal year. Narcotics abuse is the #1 law enforcement problem in the state of Oklahoma. I have recommended more funds to increase the number of full-time narcotics investigation agents to help deal with this serious problem. I also initiated yesterday a no parole policy for adult drug offenders who peddle to minors. Today, you and I must seek the answer to what is causing this increasing problem while we work for an expanded rehabilitation program of those so ensnared. It is our responsibility, and one that I know you will accept. Also, it is our responsibility, and that of the entire public, to take every means necessary to prevent the spoiling and the fouling of our air, land, and water. I recommend that the anti-pollution enforcement powers of this state be concentrated in one control agency, with the exception of those functions now performed by the State Corporation Commission. I recommend that the existing Pollution Control Board be designated as the agency, and that it be strengthened with injunctive enforcement powers and a full-time staff and director. As a general business management policy, I believe it is more economical to utilize an existing agency than to create more bureaucracy. It is important to have a single source, however, to obtain the necessary information for compliance with Oklahoma's program to protect our environment. In order to guarantee efficient public services at an adequate level and an effective use of our tax dollar, it will be necessary for us to make certain that the state economizes in every way possible. It will require innovative and creative managerial practices. I am asking each agency head, and I have counseled with them personally, to carefully review the productivity of his workforce and the economy of his management practices. We must direct a renewed emphasis on the state's agriculture and related industries. Traditionally, this has been Oklahoma's greatest industry and presently accounts directly or indirectly for more than 50% of the gross state product. We must make certain that this industry does not suffer from a lack of attention from the governor or from the legislature. I am placing an agriculture advisor on the governor's staff to keep me apprised of development and needs in this area at all times. Specifically at this time, I recommend to you that you provide for the creation of a blood disease diagnostic center at Oklahoma State University to serve the state's livestock needs. Further, I recommend that the appropriate action be taken to require that all foreign beef marketed in our state be labeled as imported beef. I plan to join with the other governors of beef-producing states to work towards federal legislation in this area. In other areas of public safety, we recommend that you enact legislation providing for sensible restrictions on the sale of dynamite and high explosives. We need to review and implement our long-range planning for a total water program for the entire state, but with particular emphasis on the development of water for western Oklahoma. Water is critical, as you know, to the development of all of this state. We must see that racial and ethnic minorities in Oklahoma are provided the assistance necessary to help overcome the inequities of many conditions present today. We must institute programs to develop these minorities economically, as this is the surest way to realize equal opportunity. We must establish programs to seek more middle income and upper middle income jobs for minorities. I am abolishing the Office of Interagency Coordination, as I believe as I believe our present law enforcement agencies are sufficient. Today, I call upon the physicians and allied professions to structure a more comprehensive program for voluntary medical assistance on a regular basis. I recognize the voluntary service that many professionals are already rendering, and I find it commendable. However, we need a more structured program to provide voluntary medical assistance to those in Oklahoma who presently cannot have it. We also believe that the legislature should expand its incentive program to attract more physicians and medically related professions to the rural areas of our state. Many rural areas presently have no medical assistance nearby. I recommend that funds be provided to pay for the cost of prescribed drugs used by the blind, the totally and permanently disabled, and elderly persons receiving welfare who have catastrophic or chronic illnesses. Experience has shown that the funds presently provided for these individuals are not sufficient for this unique need. We should provide for purchase on a vendor basis of these drugs and should obtain federal matching funds available for this program. However, this program should be kept subject to state office control. In the area of legislative reapportionment, I am optimistic that the legislature can and will be able to meet its obligation to reapportion. I will offer my advice and counsel whenever needed. On congressional redistricting, I am also confident that the legislature of this state can and will meet its obligation of congressional redistricting. I will offer my advice and counsel also. I look forward with optimism and enthusiasm to a close association in the next few years with our congressional delegation in the vital area of cooperation between state and federal governments. Oklahoma is fortunate. The Honorable Carl Albert will become the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives of the 92nd Congress. We are fortunate that this outstanding statesman is a dedicated public servant of our state. He is expert and powerful in the ways of government, and most important, he is sensitive to the needs of all Oklahoma. This message and the proposed budget set forth some of the goals that I will seek to accomplish during my term as governor. Needless to say, I will make other proposals to you during your legislative term. In addition, I encourage each of you to help me develop new approaches to better serve the people of our state. I anticipate a new tone of governmental cooperation for the benefit of our state, and I expect that we will maximize our efforts to serve our state by joining together in legislative and executive cooperation. I solicit the advice and counsel of the various committees of each body assembled here today. My office and my home are open to each one of you. I hope that any time I can be of assistance or of value to you in any way, that you will not hesitate to call me personally. I have made no commitment or promise that I do not feel we can keep. Together, we will etch a new era in Oklahoma government and a new direction in Oklahoma history. God bless you as you serve our state and our people.